Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this bonus Rangers review broadcast. A breaking news live, as you can see in the top left-hand corner, because the big news, Jonny, who joins me live, is that Alfredo Morelos has been omitted from the Rangers matchday squad for the match against PSV Eindhoven in the Champions League playoff tomorrow night. Big news this, Jonny, just broke this morning. What's your initial reaction? Concerns over, of course, his attitude, his physical condition as well. He got that red card on Saturday against Hibernian. Giovanni van Bronckhorst has then decided to leave him behind and go without him in such a huge game. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I think, first of all, there's a lot to chew over in this, but time ad infinitum. You've seen clubs bend over backwards for star players. And that is no different at Rangers. You know, Paul Gascoigne was given a freer hand than Walter Smith would have given to other players because of what he delivered. And I think Alfredo Morelos has absolutely had that. We are delving deep into his numbers just now for a piece that Craig Vickers is doing that will be out later on today, that I suspect will show that Alfredo Morelos tends not to fire as a Rangers player until well into the season. And I think the suspicion is, certainly from my point of view, is that Alfredo Morelos many times has come back from pre-season in a condition that you wouldn't normally associate with a professional athlete. And that has certainly been the case this term when he arrived back from having a significant injury. He's out of shape, he's overweight, there's no doubt about it. You don't need that information from inside the club, although I understand from sources that is the case. You just have to look at his physical conditioning. You look at his body structure on the pitch, you can see that he's not the lean, mean fighting machine that an elite athlete needs to be. And fundamentally, that combined with problems over his attitude around the place, his commitment, with a year left on his contract, I think Rangers have taken the really tough stance to end contract talks. Those are put on hold for the time being, and lay down the law to Alfredo Morelos by saying you're not going to PSV, and you have to have a real strong, hard think about what you want to be. He's 26 now, Derek. He is no longer a child. We can't keep making arguments against him, because we know that in modern football, 26, 27, 28, players cannot cope anymore if they have lived a life of free and easy attitude towards recuperating, rest, hydration, and diet. We've seen it time and time again. Look at a player like Lee Griffiths, 31. He's in the third league in Australia. The other one that jumps to mind, Derek Riordan. Two players of very good talent who have played across the city, who did not fulfil their potential and were well down the pecking order at an age where they should be playing. If you don't have the absolute right conditioning, if you don't have the right attitude, you are going to struggle in modern football to have a long career in the game. It's just not something that you're going to be able to sustain. So for me, Alfredo Morelos has got a lot of thinking to do, a lot of hard thinking about where he is and where he wants to do. And I don't think Giovanni van Bronckhorst has the patience to put up with what he sees as behaviour that's just unacceptable. And I know that he's been backed by the players at the club, the experienced players at the club who feel the same way. The leadership group were informed of this decision by the manager and were completely on board with it. If you read my piece, which has got a lot of detail on the website right now, don't know if Derek, if you can pop that into the comments.
Yep.
It's quite clear that not only the established players, But the key leadership figures above Giovanni Van Bronckhorst completely back the manager on this decision. And there is a bit of evidence for this. James Tavernier came out in the club TV channel and called his red card, by the way, the 8th of his Rangers career, stupid. Now, James Tavernier is a very adept media operator. You know, he's not great for us guys, to be honest, because he doesn't give you too much to chew over. But this was unusual, and it stood out that on Sunday, Saturday, sorry. Not only did he actually come out and say something that was quite juicy from a newspaper point of view, but he said it on the club TV channel. So it's two-pronged. And I think that gives you a bit of an insight into the club's decision-making process. Finally, Derek, because I know I'm going on a monologue here, but the last thing I would say is I just don't think in 2022 you can put up with a sustained level of unprofessionalism. The Rangers have gone out and signed players with goals. Now, there's a lot of people saying, yeah, but the players that they've signed are not going to replace Morelos. Well, Alfredo Morelos' best goal contribution in the domestic setup is 17 goals. So I think they have, to be honest. I think Čolak is going to get 17 goals, no problem. I think Lawrence has already shown that he's going to get double figures. You know, come back to me on that one. Well, I would put quite a lot of money on that. Tillman, I think, has got goals in him too, and will remain to be seen how many he gets. But fundamentally, they have got more goals in the team than they did last season. Far more. And I don't think the club feels that they're in a position where they have to kind of mollycoddle Alfredo Morelos anymore. He's a 26-year-old man. He needs to get a grip. And hopefully the outcome of this will be that he gets a shake and he goes, crikey, I'm going down the wrong path here. Because you know what's going to happen with Alfredo Morelos if he keeps going down this path, Derek? Instead of being in the Premier League, he's going to end up in a similar league to Scotland. He's going to end up in Holland. He's going to end up in Turkey. He's going to end up in Austria. He's not going to get that contract that he so desires, and it'll be down to his professionalism. And I just think the club have made the right stand on this. To everyone who's watching it, it's 2022. You just can't put up with this nonsense in this day and age. He needs to sharpen up and wise up.
Yeah, a lot of supporters obviously agreeing in the comments, Johnny. There's so many issues to talk with regards to this. The one is the contract talks, which I believe have been halted.
That's right.
Thing is, in today's modern game, player power reigns supreme. Rangers have an asset in Alfredo Morelos. He's worth a lot of money. Can they afford just to let him sulk and run down his contract and leave for nothing? It's a big call, this.
Rangers are in a massively positive position from that point of view, Derek. I mean, at the end of the day, they've sold Calvin Bassey for a significant sum, £19 million and rising to much higher than that. They've sold Joe Aribo. Okay, they've gone out and spent some money, but they've also got the money from Nathan Patterson from the year before. They've got the money from the Europa League. And regardless of whether it's Europa League this year or Champions League, by getting through to the playoff stage, they've secured a fair chunk in that £5 million buffer. That means that there's probably only £10 or £11 million between the two tournaments. So I don't think Rangers are in any financial problems whatsoever. I don't think they're in a position where they have to really panic about Morelos' value. They paid £1 million for him. Obviously, you would want to get what he's worth. But the reality is, Alfredo Morelos was a hot property about 3 or 4 years ago, Derek. There was scouts from all over the place. On the grapevine as a journalist, you were hearing all sorts of things about different people coming to look at him from different places. A lot of Premier League clubs were sniffing around. I'm talking about going back to the time when he was absolutely on fire, scoring that double in Feyenoord, really, really playing at the top of his game. I think he was a Europa League top scorer at the end of the group stage, and he was irresistible. He was absolutely superb at that point under Steven Gerrard. That's dried up. That really has dried up. Leo came in with $16.5 million. Rangers wanted more. I think they were right to hold out for their valuation. Not many Scottish clubs have done that. Over the years, it's turned out to be probably a wrong decision in terms of the pure cash number, because you're not going to get that for Alfredo Morelos now. But the key thing here is, over the intervening years since that point, where's the gossip been? Where's the noise been? Where's the kind of inside stories that journalists hear? Not been much. Really hasn't been much, Derek. And I put that down to word gets around, in football circles about professionalism, about commitment, about what you're going to get out of a player. And I think people looked at his disciplinary record, people looked at his scoring record in Scotland. Why is he not 35 goals a season? He should be tearing that league up. What does that tell us? That he's not? Because his Europa League performances and bang for buck is superb. Ultimately, I've spoken to several people that have said Alfredo Morelos should be given what he's got in his locker in the Premier League. Now, that might not be at Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, but a mid to lower end Premier League team, it should not be beyond the ken of Alfredo Morelos, given what he can do on a football pitch. Because he can go long, he can run in behind, he can hold the ball up, he can lay play off. He's got so many different facets to his game, which what makes him such a good player. It's why he's a record goal scorer for Rangers in European football. But he's not been able to translate that into his overall game. And I think clubs have noticed that, Derek. And I think that's why, we're not hearing tabloid story after story after story about clubs that are interested in Alfredo Morelos. And Rangers haven't had, much in the way of people sniffing about him. And, the answer is clear. I spoke to Pedro Caixinha. I talk about this in my piece that you put up earlier about him. And he said, the first thing about Alfredo is his weight. You've got to get his weight right. That's number one. That's the hardest thing. I was a bit taken aback by how insistent Pedro, and Pedro only worked with him for 6 months. And I know Pedro sat down with him one-to-one, explained to him everything that he needed to do, said to him, look, you can be a top player. You can really go places. I kind of felt like that message was just a little bit lost on Alfredo Morelos. Like he wasn't really taking it in. Now, people might have said, well, maybe he wasn't convinced by Pedro or whatever, but I know for a fact that there's been other people that have tried to reach Alfredo, tried to break into his head and say, look, you've got it all here. You just need to put it together on the pitch and make it happen. And he hasn't been able to. Now, I'm a huge fan of the player, Derek, and it's going to sound like I'm being mega critical of him. But fundamentally, there's nothing sadder in life than a wasted talent. Yes, I have seen A Bronx Tale with Robert De Niro. And for me, Alfredo Morelos, he shouldn't even be in Scotland. Everything that he has at his fingertips, he should be in an elite league, earning the kind of money that changed his family's life, his village's life back in Colombia, because he should be on 100k a week. He should be able to be getting that kind of money down in the Premier League or in Italy or in La Liga, because he has that skill set. But he's not focused enough. And he needs to understand he's 26 and the window is rapidly shortening for his opportunity to go and deliver that kind of cash that he needs to make if he wants to have a really, really top successful career. Because it's a short career, Derek. We know this, He's at his peak now. I would argue that the top players' peaks are going down and down. In the past, we'd say a striker's 28 to 31. I don't think it is that anymore, mate. I think it's 24 to 28 now. And it might even be younger. So I think Alfredo needs to get a grip of himself quick.
Yeah, listen, there's some comments coming in support of Alfredo Morelos. Teddy Bear says, doesn't his goals for us in Europe command a bit more backing from you and others? He certainly thinks so. And Claire McGeoch says, don't agree with leaving him out. So him being hot-headed is just who he is, and we need him. So some support coming in for Alfredo Morelos, which is understandable. He's a fan's favourite. There's no doubt about it. He's idolised amongst the Rangers support. But this decision, it's one that can often go two ways, Johnny, when a manager omits a star player. However, I think the telling aspect, you've touched on it, is the senior players in the squad have backed the manager, which is very telling, isn't it? Morelos doesn't seem to have a leg to stand on here.
I think the key thing is, Derek, that the story of Alfredo Morelos is not written by this incident. He doesn't have to allow this to be a sour ending to what has been something of a fairy tale. for all the ups and downs and the roller coaster ride that Alfredo Morelos has taken Rangers fans on, if it was to end like this, if this was to be the way that it ended, it would be a real sour note, wouldn't it? And this does not have to be the end of his career. The club, certainly the people I'm speaking to are not saying that. They're saying, they want this to be a wake-up call. This has to be a moment for Alfredo to reflect and understand the demands that are being placed on him. Again, in that piece that I've written, which you can access on the Rangers Review website, and please support us there. It's £1 for 2 months at the moment to get you access to that and everything else that we do.
£2.
Sorry, £2 at the moment. It's a huge factor that isn't being talked about. It's what Antonio Čolak has brought to the table. Ultimately, in the past, Rangers have had Alfredo Morelos and Kemar Roofe. Jermaine Defoe was obviously there, but it's never going to be considered the out-and-out, the main man, the guy who's going to lead you through 50 games, not at his age. I think Gerrard saw Roofe as a guy who could float around the front three, who was capable of playing anywhere. He could play as a number 9, he could play as a right 10, left 10, even if necessary. And I don't think the club have ever felt we've got someone now in place who can take over that mantle. I think Antonio Čolak coming in has changed that. There's been a real appreciation of what Čolak has brought in terms of dedication, in terms of his physical conditioning, and I understand that it's just completely night and day. Čolak is like a middleweight boxer. He's built like a proverbial brick outhouse, and it's sculpted to an incredible degree, like a Michelangelo statue. And when you stand them next to Morelos, there's a real obvious visual comparison. And one is a professional, just about to get married. Everything he does is about being a 24-hour athlete. He's desperate to get to the World Cup with Croatia. Every single ounce and fibre of his being is going into making that work for Glasgow Rangers Football Club and himself. And then you've got a guy who's kind of turning up overweight, who should be chomping at the bit because he's got a year left on his contract, desperate to get into the Champions League to put himself in the ultimate shop window if that's what he wants, or to get a new contract, and just hasn't been at the races. And I think that comparison around the training ground, that kind of sense of, well, we've now got another really viable option here, I think has kind of accelerated this decision, because all of a sudden you have a guy that you can turn to, and it gives you that wee bit of leeway to turn around to Alfredo Morelos and say enough is enough.
Yeah. Listen, he's posted a message on his Instagram in the last 15 minutes, Alfredo Morelos. I'm just getting the translation here, folks. Translated saying, the best warrior is not the one who always triumphs, but the one who returns fearlessly to battle. And then a little message from him saying, fear of God. Read into that what you will. It's a difficult one. There's questions coming in here. I wanted to touch on a little bit here. Where are we? The questions about tomorrow, Johnny, and saying Rangers are light up top. You mentioned Čolak. He's obviously going to lead the line tomorrow, and he scored a fantastic goal at Ibrox in the first leg. However, Čolak aside, who do you bring on when he's tiring in games and you need fresh legs up front? Fashion Sakala's not had a look in. Can Malik Tillman play up there? See a few comments saying throw Zach Lovelace in. There's an article on the website this morning about Lovelace. Go check it out, folks. But it leaves Rangers a tad light up there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They are light, but there's no reason to say that actually Čolak will be a player that will tire, because he's exceptionally fit. The problem, I suppose, would be if he gets injured. But you do have Tillman there who can play up front. You do have Fashion Sakala still there. I inquired about Fashion Sakala because I felt like there had to be a situation coming up where him and his agents would have a look at the situation at Rangers, because he's not playing. And I was told, look, the club like Fashion Sakala, and it's a long season. And it wasn't ruled out that Sakala would leave, but, I don't think it's in the club's mind frame to let him go. And that's not saying it won't happen, but this probably explains part of that. You know, you've still got Fashion Sakala there who can come in and get you goals. So there is options, Derek. As I say, I reiterate again, it's not like it's been in the past. You've got Cholak, you've got Sakala, you've got Tillman. Would you want to go to them? No, you wouldn't, because Alfredo Morelos is better than all those players, in my opinion. But there's certain lines that you just can't cross at a professional football club. Now, Derek, I love you on these videos. I think you do a terrific job. But if you started turning up all the time late, if you were rocking into these videos drunk, I'd probably say, as much as I love Derek, as much as I think he's a great guy and brilliant on these videos, it's time to draw a line under Derek Clark and his drunken behaviour. So everyone has levels that you can't push past, and I just think Gio's maybe been pushed to that point now, and he feels like he has to do this. And make no mistake, this is Gio's call, but it's backed by the hierarchy of the club and the players, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Derek, just to put a question back to you, mate, because I know that I've been doing a lot of calls today, so that's why I'm rabbiting on. But in terms of Morelos here, what's your take on why? Because we've all heard the rumours for a long time, and it's always been quite obvious that Alfredo, when he goes away for a wee break, whether it be for a week in sort of close season or in mid-season, or if it's pre-season, he doesn't come back in what you would describe as elite professional condition quite a lot of the time, certainly to my eyes. How do you perceive why he's made this decision now, Van Bronckhorst, and where it leaves Rangers?
Yeah, before I touch on that, I love this comment from Daly. Says Derek does what he wants. Absolutely, Dale. Listen, I think hindsight's a wonderful thing, but if Morelos doesn't get sent off on Saturday and Rangers win that game, he's travelling to Eindhoven, isn't he? I think that's the sort of that's proved to be the tipping point on Saturday's dismissal, and I don't think many people can have too many complaints. It's possibly a little soft, you could say, but you can't do that in the modern game. Raise your hands like that. He knew where the opposition player was, and I think it's understandable that he was given his marching orders, and I think that's just. It's a difficult one in terms of the way he's almost like a Wayne Rooney figure, Johnny. I've seen Wayne Rooney play, and it takes him when he was playing. Of course, it took him a few games to get into sort of match fighting weight, for want of a better word. And Morelos is a similar sort of guy.
Great comparison.
When they stop training every day, then it's just their body shape and their genetics. They look at a tad rotund, shall we say. So I think it's just, when you mentioned Cholak there, different body shape, I think his metabolism way through the roof, of course. And so there's that comparison. But listen, I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and the coaching staff, the guys like Roy Mackay, who's working with them every day, he'll know better than most. He'll be thinking here, this is not the player that we got firing in all cylinders at the start of the calendar year, of course, when remember that there was criticism of Morelos when Gerrard was just about to leave the club and he wasn't doing the business. And then Van Bronckhorst came in and he got a tune out of him. He started playing him more in the centre of the goal and asked him just to concentrate on scoring goals as opposed to coming deep and linking up the play. So he was doing well, and then he got that injury, of course, and he's come back, and they've obviously not been happy with his dedication and his commitment to getting back up to match sharpness. So I can understand why they've decided here, enough's enough, we can't rely on this guy, and they've ditched him. But it's just,
ditched is strong, Derek. I think
for this game they have.
Yeah. I mean, Cholak's playing very well at the moment, and that just gives you a wee opportunity to lay a marker down. You know, Alfredo's not going to play in the next 2 games. We know about that because he's suspended. And I don't think Rangers would even waste the £1,000 that it would cost to apply to the SFA for an exemption so that they can appeal his red card. I don't think that's going to happen. So you know he's going to be out of the next 2 games. And that gives you, if he's out the PSV game, out of the 2 domestic games, it gives you a wee window where he can actually demonstrate whether or not he's going to sink or swim.
Yeah.
And I really, really hope that from Rangers' point of view, this is just what he needs to kickstart things, because he knows, Alfredo must know that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst loves him, because look at what he did for him the minute he walked through the door. He said, right, no, we need to get you in the box. We need to get you in as a number 9. We need to get you right in the middle there, scoring goals, banging them away. And Alfredo Morelos, who'd had a terrible start to last season, terrible, went from 0 to hero under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. Boom! All of a sudden, it all comes together. And it's quite clear that Van Bronckhorst's system's perfect for Morelos, because he's going to be that focal point. Whereas under Steven Gerrard, it was about him almost becoming that Bobby Firmino type who drops in, allows the players to move past him, creates play so that the guys who are running in behind into the space that he creates by pulling a defender out get the glory. But Morelos in this system is going to be the main man. So it's clear Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is not taking this decision lightly. I think he just needs to shake himself. He needs to, hopefully his agent will get a hold of him and say, Alfredo, you've got a year left, right? You either bang the goals in and have an unbelievable year and then get a big move, hopefully, for him, a big contract somewhere else, or you do it here and you get a big move in a couple of years' time, or in a year's time, if you sign a new deal.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that Alfredo is not a Rangers fan who wants to remain a Rangers player for life. I mean, that would just be silly. He's from Colombia. He wants to develop his own career and do the best he possibly can for his family. And Rangers should want that too for him, because that means that you can get the maximum that you could possibly get for a player that helps the player trading model, that allows Rangers to reinvest in the next generation of Alfredo Moreloses in terms of signings.
Yeah.
But we've reached a sort of situation now where I think he just has to try and become the guy that thinks about where he is, and he just doesn't let things happen to him. He actually takes control of his destiny and focuses on being an elite athlete. Now, that might be Derek, to be honest, that might be a step too far from. You know, it's up to him though. He's not a baby anymore. He's not a kid. And I think sometimes he's almost like because of the way he is, and there's a sort of temptation to kind of almost mollycoddle Alfredo Morelos. And I know people love him because he's got real personality, and we certainly want guys with that kind of spirit to be part of the game in Scotland, because there's not that many of them. But fundamentally, the club have to endorse professionalism. And I don't think they've had that. Certainly Giovanni Van Bronckhorst doesn't think the professionalism has been there. And that's why he's taking this decision.
Yeah.
And
I totally agree. As hard as it is, and it's. I mean, I was thinking Morelos before this decision was made would be ideal for Wednesday night, but that's me looking at it historically and matches gone by. He's clearly not in the physical state to lead that line for Rangers and do the business, and that's why. One of the reasons why the coaching staff have decided to leave him at home. And just touching on that game tomorrow, Johnny, I know you're going to speak to Joshua, who's in Eindhoven for us. Cholak, of course, will lead the line. Craig Marshall says, what time is Gilles' press conference, lads? I believe it's 5:30 UK time. So later on this evening, they just flew out around lunchtime. So that'll be on the website, folks, all the content, all the fallout from Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's presser. And there's no surprises to figure out what he'll be talking about and what will lead much of that press conference, which takes away from what is a huge game, Johnny, doesn't it? It is massive, this match tomorrow night. It's all there for Rangers. Go out, win the game, and then the riches and the glamour that comes with it is there for them.
Absolutely, Derek. It's as much as anything else, this isn't really financial. This is about fully recovering from the events of 2012 and being able to say that Rangers is back to being a Champions League club once again. And hearing that music around Ibrox, knowing that you've got those 6 games, I think that will be the absolute final stage of the club's re-emergence from chaos. Now, we know the club is in a much, much better position. We know the club is back on a sound financial footing. But it's just that last part, isn't it? And while there is a financial element to it, it's not as big as you would think. I mean, one of the things that we've done at the Rangers Review, Derek, I know you've been working on it today as well, is looking at the difference between the Europa League and the Champions League. And of course, there's big money to be made in the Champions League if you win games, because I think it's something like 2.6 million a win.
Yeah.
But you're going up against such incredible quality and such huge budgets. How many points realistically are you going to rack up? Whereas you can rack up points pretty significantly in the Europa League at a much lower sort of competition prize fund scale. And that can bring them closer together. And then you've also got the fact that Rangers, if they go out at this stage, will receive a €5 million solidarity payment for dropping out at the final stage of the Europa League, the Champions League. And that brings the amount you can win from the Europa League up to nearer the amount that you make in the Champions League. The difference is about 10 million quid. Now, Rangers have done really, really well in the transfer market, Derek, so I would suggest that 10 million quid isn't going to put the club really up nor down. It would be fantastic to get it, but it's not needed. No. So it's perhaps not that humongous game changer that we all thought it would be at one stage when you actually drill into the detail. It can be, but realistically, is it going to be, given, the kind of quality that you're going to be up against? If Rangers draw, the likes of Real Madrid, PSG, teams like that, how many points are they realistically going to get? And you could get a really, really tough group. Yeah. So I suppose what my long-winded answer to this is that it is a huge game, but it's more about the club's prestige and sense of recovery to me than it is about any kind of financial requirement to reach the Champions League at this stage. And I just think it would be an incredible way to just put a cap on what has been, a really incredible recovery since 2016. We saw last season getting to the Europa League final, which was smashing. But to get back to that Champions League stage and to see Rangers on that level, I think would be the final moment to say that's all behind us 100% now.
Yeah, totally agree. I agree with Derek's point here as well. Need a supreme effort from the back line tomorrow. Confident we can score, less confident we can keep a clean sheet. And Craig Marshall says he loves your passion, Johnny. Ever thought about public speaking? Poor Derek not getting a word in.
Sorry, Derek.
Listen, it was the big talking point, folks, is the breaking news. Alfredo Morelos has been left behind. He won't feature in Rangers' matchday squad against PSV Eindhoven tomorrow night in that Champions League playoff match in Eindhoven. Okie dokie, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for getting in touch as ever. Sorry if I couldn't get to your comments, but it's very much appreciated. And as Johnny mentioned earlier on, we've still got that offer on the website just now. As you can see the ticker below, £2 for 2 months worth of content over at rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. So much stuff on there at the moment, folks, and so many of you taking advantage of that offer and saying great things. So thank you for doing so. Johnny, you're back later on, I believe, with Joshua in Eindhoven, perhaps.
Yes.
But Joshua's also going to do a little video for us in the next couple of hours as well, people. So stay tuned for that. He's at the moment, I believe, speaking to Ruud van Nistelrooy and a PSV player in their pre-match press conference. But until then, we'll speak to you a little later on.